Hello everybody, and welcome to today's episode of G Bear Homesteading the Desert. Here we are looking at my pond, or what's left of it, and boy, did I get a bunch of runoff into this thing. I mean, that clay has got to be, oh geez, 1.5 feet deep, along with whatever else is mixed in with it, because this was almost 4 feet in the center. And I'm looking at across here now. I'm only about a foot right at the shoreline now, a foot deep. So a lot of clay washed down into here. And you can see where the sand deposited there at the end of the stream bed. And then you can see the clay runoff that's come into this thing. So looks like I've got some digging to do. I've got to get the bucket over here when this dries out a little more and dig out. There's some crow prints in here. A couple of crows, actually ravens, were around here and getting some water, and they were over there in that mud too. And that mud and clay over there is pretty thick, and it's holding a lot of moisture on the ground. So you look around here and you can see all these little bushes. They're all browned out and everything, but give it a week or so, a little bit of sun after all of this water, and things are going to green up around here fast. All right, next, I started some prospecting today, and I started walking through the stream bed here, and I marked a few places of interest that I really want to check out. I didn't mark this one because this is pretty obvious. It's right here by the pond, so I know exactly where to look for it. But yeah, the place you want to look on a stream bed for any gold deposits, where the heaviest stuff that comes down in the water flow drops off, is on inside of bends. Where there's a bend in the stream bed or the river, on the inside of that bend is where you want to look. But you can also look at places where heavy deposits of black sand are, because black sand is heavier than the regular sand, so it deposits where the water has slowed down enough to where it just drops right out onto the bottom. And you can see this heavy deposit of black sand right on through here, and then just past that you can see regular sand, and that's the lighter stuff that washed over the top as this stuff dropped out. So this area would also be a place of interest for me, even though it's not on a bend. And normally you got to go all the way down to bedrock to find your gold, because gold is heavy. It works its way on down through the sand. You'll even find nuts and bolts down in there. But as you can see, there's hard clay base underneath this stream bed. You can see how hard it is. If I stomp on it there, I can't even make a footprint in it. That's really hard. So that's a good place where I could find deposits. Hard clay, bedrock, they both do the same thing. Here's an inside bend on the stream. So all in this area, you can see the little rocks that deposited over there when the water was up higher, and then you can see deposits of rocks here in the center of the stream bed. And those actually work like the little ripples in a sluice box. If any gold was coming down, it would go over the tops of those and fall out behind them. So all of those places, even like this little place right there with the slate, underneath that is a good place to look. So those are all places that I'd be interested in looking. Now here, you see some heavy rocks and some fallout here, and you can see where it actually got into almost like a waterfall here, and there's a little flat rock in between those two right there that works like a sluice box. So, and black sand deposit behind it. So this is going to be another place of interest for me. Then up here again, big heavy rock. So on the downstream side of the rock, where the sand is just sitting right there, and you can see where it washed out around both sides in a horseshoe shape, but it left a deposit right in the center. So that deposit right there is something that I'd be looking at, and I'll be digging into that. And this goes on and on all the way up here. and I made some X's in the stream bed where I want to check it out, and goes all the way through there. Now up higher today, I was prospecting in a field of rock that was right beside the stream, and I picked up some rocks of interest. Here's the other stream bed, and this is the inside on this side of the bend here, and then that's the inside of it over there. So this makes an S turn, and then it's got a little ripple here, and it's got some deposits right there. So all of this is going to be places of interest for me. Back to the rock field where I was up there today. I brought some rocks down that I want to scrutinize a little bit further. Some of the things that you're looking for in the rock formations are, of course, you want to look for quartz, but don't go for the bright white quartz. Bright white quartz will very seldom ever have any gold deposits in it. It's just going to be a pretty white stone. That's basically what they call leverite, just leverite there. So what you want to do is you want to get pieces of quartz with color in them. And the redder, the better is the saying that they use in prospecting. And these are some of the rocks that I picked up today. Now, this one I picked up just because there's actually some crystalline going on right there. And there's black inside of the middle of that crystal. So I want to get into this and check this piece out. That's an interesting piece. All right. And then you get pieces like this where you got quartz inside of other types of sedimentary stone, but it almost looks like it's rusted. So it's almost like iron deposits. And iron you will find in the areas of gold too, because it's a heavy metal and it's going to fall out in the stream beds. Now look at that little rectangle in there. It's a little rusty black, little rusty black square or rectangle there that's of some interest. So I want to get into this one a little closer, and then you can see the cracks in here, and that's where how gold and other metals and stuff get into the quartz, and it finds those fissures in there, and it when it was in a molten state, it got in there and then solidified. All right, you're looking at these big black rocks, and you might think to yourself, what in the heck did he get those black rocks for? Well, those black rocks are rocks that you find in areas of where you might find gold, and that's called magnetite. And let's see if I can find my little magnet here somewhere. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. Okay, I like this. This is a rare earth magnet that comes out of a computer hard drive. They're very, very strong. When these things stick down to something, they go clank when they go in. Now, these are rocks and they're black, but if you notice, I can pick them up with a magnet. That's magnetite. Okay, see them? They all want to pick up with the magnet. Now, this big piece is also magnetite, and this has some veins running through it, so that's an interesting piece of stone. I'll check that out with a little bit more scrutiny down the line, and you can see it's not as strong on this side as it is on this side. This side it wants to fall right down, and this side it sticks right on. And you say, well, maybe that's north and south. Well, I'll show you something about these magnets in a hard drive. That side doesn't stick to anything, but this side really sticks, and I have to actually slide it down to where I can get my finger behind it to pop it off. And I picked up some black sand on it right there, just in that little movement. Anyway, I found this big piece of quartz. Just this white part was sticking out of the ground. So I got my shovel out and I dug down and I pulled out this big old piece of quartz, and it's got some black and some red and that stuff in it. So it's got a lot of cracks and stuff. That might be an interesting piece to check out. This one has got a lot of black in it, but it's not magnetite. But that rock is really heavy. I mean, really heavy for a rock that size. So I brought that one in. This one, it's got all these little black crystals in it. Pretty interesting, but it's not magnetite. The magnet doesn't stick to it. Now here's some quartz, and this quartz has been eroded. And what happens when water and other natural chemicals come together on this with oxygen, it creates a sulfuric acid, and that's like what acid would do to this rock. It would eat up this rock like that. So this is an interesting piece. I'll look into it, and you can see where other minerals were stuck in it and they fell out. That's what all these little holes, these little pucks are all about. So we don't know what the heck fell out of there, but it'll be interesting to look at. And look at this piece of quartz. It's got rusted metal in it, and you got a definite seam right here where you can see where the two pieces of rock are together. And that's a heavy piece too, so that'll be an interesting one to look at. Again, here you see what they call, these are quartz stringers. They're just a straight run of quartz going through some other rock. So that's I just got that one to show you. Now this is jasper, and it's red jasper, but I was amazed to find that out there. Here's some quartz, or part of quartz stringer, in some other black rock here that's rusted, so it might be iron, but again, the magnet doesn't stick to it. Another piece here. This one here looks like it's almost jasper, but just interesting. I wanted to take a look. There's a quartz stringer, a good look at one, where quartz, a little vein of quartz runs through the center of another type of rock, and this looks like it might be sedimentary. And there's another quartz stringer, and this one runs in a weird way, so that was all interested. This one has a little stringer in the middle of it, and this one has that big chunk of black in there that I wanted to take a look at. And this one looks like it's got sandstone on the bottom of it, and it looks like this one's been eaten away by acidics. So these are all interesting pieces that I want to look at. Now, some of the things that I take with me when I go out prospecting is, of course, the little magnet. Then I have this magnet here, which you push the button down, and then you can pick up black sand and then release it. So this is great for big deposits of black sand, because sometimes flour gold will be stuck right in with the black sand. So you can pick up a bunch and drop it into your pan, then get some water in there and start swishing it around, and you might see some color. Some of the other things I like to bring is this little scratch-all with an L side and a straight side. And that's sometimes you find crevices in these things, and it looks like you might see something, looks like color in there. So you're going to put that out over your pan before you start trying to dig at it, just in case it is color. You want it to fall into the pan, not into the dirt on the ground. So you can dig in there and check out some of the stuff and see what you got going in those little cracks and fissures. This was another interesting piece that I found, and this looks like it's sedimentary, but it's weird the way it's formed, almost like it was frozen and defrosted a few times. And then you can see the extra layers of something that's in the middle of it there. So I'll be looking at those. All right, some of the other things is my my metal detector. I don't always haul that around with me because it's a little on the heavy side. But when I get back, I'll set up a block of wood like that stump right there that's up high away from any metal. And then I'll set my metal detector so that my discriminator mode right here, discriminator mode, is adjusted to the finest discrimination for gold. And yes, I do have some gold that I can set it on. And then I put the rocks one at a time on top of that pedestal, and I scanned them to see what I get. And I want to be away from any metal when I'm doing that, so I'll take that thing out into the middle of the area here where it's out of the way of picking up any other metals. All right, I'm running a little long here, so I'm going to be getting ready to cut this one short, and we'll go into this in another episode. The other thing is this little unit right here. I don't use this for picking water up. I actually use it for blowing. So you can see when you squeeze it, you can blow it. So when you have a dry mix in the bottom of your pan and you want to blow the sand away to see if you've got anything that's heavier that's sitting there, any color, this comes in handy for that. And then, of course, I like to bring my magnifier, my headset magnifier here, so I can get closer looks at some of the little nicks and crannies on some of these rocks. It makes it easier to see them. My eyesight's not as good as it was. Then I made up this little spade from a garden spade with a larger handle, and I use this for digging, of course, and that's what I use to get that rock out, because I tried pulling it up my fingers. It wasn't going to move. The other thing is, when I'm going into large deposit areas of black sand, this is a 30-inch magnetic pickup, and right now I've got it tipped backwards, because this side right here, which is the front right now, is actually the magnetic side. So if I rotate this way, and I start rolling it around here, like this, then we bring it back over here, and we'll look at the bottom, and we have black sand stuck to it. So I can pick up a lot of black sand at one time, and to release it, all you do is pull this handle, just like that. You can see the line of black sand right there that I just deposited. So I can pick up large quantities of black sand with this at one time. So that's another handy tool. There's another tool that I'd like to get. It's a little on the expensive side, and if I find some color, I'll probably save up and get it. It's a small metal detector with a wand on it. You can set that down to a discriminatory setting, and if you take a piece of magnetite like this and you run it up to the wand of it, it'll shut off the beeping sound or the buzzing sound. Then if you pull it away, the buzzing sound gets louder. So that tells you that it's magnetite or ferrous metal, not gold. And if you take gold and you bring it towards the wand, even the smallest little speck of flour gold will set the thing off, and it'll make a loud, more like a cricket sound, but it'll let you know that there's gold in whatever you've picked up, so you don't bring back a bunch of leverite. And all this black rock back here, these little pieces and this one, are all magnetite. So I wanted to pick those up to show you. And then you can see some of this other stuff here almost looks like an old rusty chunk of steel, but it's very light. It's rock. Interesting. All this stuff I'll scrutinize a little further, and I've got some more sitting on my sink over there, and I'll get into those down the line. All right, I don't want to keep you going too much longer, so I'm going to let this one go, and we'll get back into phase 2 in a future time. G Bear signing off.